Hey, friends, we are back with another really great conversation. And tonight, it's all about personal development. I feel like all these conversations really are about that, but this is my friend Steph here made it her mission to spend an entire year on personal development for herself. And while a lot of us get these ideas in our head, we don't follow through, and Steph actually did. So, I mean, come on, we all have to give it up for that. Steph, why don't you introduce yourself?
All right. Well, hi, everyone. My name is Stefanie Adams. I am a financial advisor with Primerica Financial Advisors, and I love what I do. And one of the things that I really, to kind of piggyback what Dawn just said, what I really focused on this year was personal growth because I felt like something in my life was lacking and I didn't really know what that was. So somebody suggested that I start reading and trying to figure out these things, and it just kind of led me on a different journey this year. So it's definitely been a great year.
Awesome. So, if I could ask, was it a friend that suggested you do this, or did you work with a coach?
Both. So in my business, I have a mentor that I go to that I train underneath, my lead advisor. And for the last 4 years of being in my industry and my company with him as my mentor, he has been continually telling me, Steph, you have to start reading. And I'm like, I hate reading. So I pretty much refused for a really long time. And then life kind of happened, and my husband was deployed overseas, and life was kind of getting the best of me. And I was talking to some friends, and they said, check this out, check this out. They were kind of giving me suggestions. So it was really a culmination, like a combination of both my mentor and also some of my friends.
Awesome. It's really great to hear what kind of support systems people have around them and what they utilize. Now, tell people really what that whole deployment entails. And it wasn't just Steph at home.
No. No. So my husband is in the Marine Corps, and he did 4 years of active duty from 2006 until 2010. He was stationed in Hawaii. And when at the time we started dating in 2008, I moved out to Hawaii, which was really cool part of life prior to kids, prior to, like I say, real adult responsibility. So it was really a great time. um,
Was it like one big long spring break?
Kinda. I had a job and I had like things to take care of, but it was just me and him. Like he did his duties with the military when he was in deployment, his training and stuff. At the time, I was working in the Child Development Center on base, and it was fun. Like we went to the beach every day. We hung out with friends. Like we were. It feels like a whole lifetime ago.
I'll bet.
Yeah. So we moved back at the end of that enlistment in 2010, and a couple years later, so he was done with the military. A couple years went by, actually probably about a year or so, and he went into the reserves to keep his retirement going, different things. He kind of missed it while working a civilian job. Um, Fast forward a couple of years, we had our first son. So our oldest is about to be 8 this month, which is really scary. But he's about to be 8. So we had JJ, and then a couple more years went by. We had our daughter. And during this time, he did not deploy at all. He would do the 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year training, but it was just kind of a daddy's going away for a night or maybe a week here, but it wasn't anything long. And then a few years back, it was probably 2 years ago now, he came home from one of his long drill weekends and said, our unit is getting activated. And I said, I don't like the sound of that. What does that mean? He said, well, we'll see what happens over the next year because things could always change, but we are due to deploy next June for an entire year. And I was like,
What?
what? Like, I just kind of like, I was like, I don't believe you. What's happening? So fast forward, it all happened. So he deployed in June of 2019. And at the time, our daughter was 2 and our son was 6. And it was pretty rough. Kind of different ages. Daddy is kind of he's the fun one in our family. So life changed pretty drastically for them. But I'm fun too, and I think I learned how to be more fun and less of the rule follower or the rule enforcer in our house while he was gone to kind of pick up the slack there. But it was different. It was hard on our relationship. It was hard on the kids. It was hard on literally every part of our life.
And then meanwhile, so he deployed in June of 2019.
Mhm.
And fast forward to March of 2020. So
Mhm.
in the middle of the deployment, yeah, let's have a pandemic and
Yeah.
change life even more drastically for you.
Yeah. Well, and it was funny because I say we were talking about the pandemic before it was a pandemic, before it was a thing, because he was actually deployed to Japan. So back when this all started last fall, um, overseas, when we started hearing the word coronavirus and there was all these like jokes about it, like it wasn't really a thing. He was already dealing with it because their protocols changed and what they were doing because they were going in and out of different countries over there. So um, I kind of joked on this. I was like, we were talking about coronavirus before it was cool, like before it was a thing. And so like starting last fall, and then really I started thinking that it was going to impact us. My aunt was actually going on a cruise and her cruise ship was quarantined. It was like January or February. And then so she was like people came over from China and some of the people on the boat tested positive, so they got everybody off the ship. And so I really started thinking it was going to impact us. And then come March, my son comes home from school one day, and then we get a notice the next day. It was actually March 13th. He had off from school. We get a notice the next day that he's not going back to school on Monday. I was like, oh my gosh, when is going to happen?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So
yeah.
and when did you really dive into the personal growth? You know, when did you pick up your first book?
Yeah, it really started kind of around that time, like November, December time, prior to the pandemic. So I really feel like I had like a good foundation prior to all the shutdown, but it didn't really pick up until that time, but then actually until he got home. So as Dawn and I were getting prepared for today, I knew that my little Ys were going to come in. I need you to get up for one moment. You can say hi real quick.
Who is she?
This is Miss Dawn. Can you say hi?
It's been a while since we've met in person.
Can you say hi? You've got Nutella on your face.
Hi.
All right.
Ooh, Nutella, I'm jealous.
Yeah. Can you get out and close my door and then go back down with stairs with Daddy and JJ? Thanks.
What can I have outside?
I'm not sure. You can talk to Daddy about it.
More candy?
No more candy. All right. Talk to Daddy. Love you. So I think I was talking about, okay, so November, December, I started reading a little bit. I was really trying to grow my business, and they kept saying, you got to read, you got to start working on yourself and different
What was
things.
the first book?
My first book, it was called Into the Magic Shop. I actually have it right here. So it's called Into the Magic Shop by James R. Doty. And it's about it's a nonfiction. It's about a neurosurgeon who started discovering the connection of the brain and the heart and the body and your ability to really regulate your emotions and your emotional response to things. And he talked about it. He's like, because if you, so he was a pediatric brain surgeon. And he's like, so if I have a child's brain open up on my surgery table and things start to go haywire, I can't lose my composure. I have to stay calm, cool, collected. I can't start sweating. I have to be able to control my body's response to the
Stress.
right? And it was interesting. And it was really the first time I was like, wow, I kind of want to keep reading this because I need to find out what's going to happen. So it was a good first book because it really kind of pulled me in because I was really interested in his journey, because then he talked about, he thought he could do it and keep it just in his professional self, but he realized he needed to carry it into his personal self too, but he didn't realize that until he kind of hit a rock bottom and then kind of came back and started actually teaching it to other people. And that's when he wrote his book and things. So it was interesting to follow his journey.
Nice. So when do you think the biggest connection happened for you? Like when was the moment you knew that like I can't go back, I can't put this down? And I don't mean the book or whatever, but the personal growth part. What did you start seeing in in yourself that made you go, oh, this is a thing?
Really, that was last Friday. It sounds crazy, but last Friday was literally a turning point in my life. And so my husband came home in June. So right when things started opening back up, he did come home, and then things got crazy again. So we pretty much live a quarantine life. I'm still working from home. But I said, now that he's home, now that I know he's safe, and this isn't going anywhere anytime soon, I really need to focus on myself and figure out what's going on. So I started doing this. It's basically a mental discipline challenge or program where it's 75 days of, you have to check these boxes off every single day, no matter what. And there's different things you have to do, and it coincides with different parts of your life. So there's a health component, there's a hydration component. So drink a gallon of water a day. There's a fitness component, there's a reading component, there's just different things. And the point of it is to do those things no matter what. And if you don't complete even just one of those things, if you drink less than a gallon of water, even if it's 1 ounce less, or if one of the things is 2 45-minute workouts, and one of the workouts has to be outside, no matter what the weather is. So there were some times I was doing a workout in a rainstorm and even a snowstorm towards the end.
So what happens if you miss an ounce or you miss a couple minutes off of your workout?
You have to start back over at day one.
Who holds you accountable for that?
Yourself. It's an integrity thing. And that was really the start of that change for me. Was 6 days into the first time starting. My husband said, he's like, so what diet are you doing? Because one of the things is you have to follow a diet. It doesn't matter what diet it is, you can create your own, but you have to follow a diet. I was like, well, I'm doing a macro diet. Or I said, I'm just eating healthy. I actually didn't say macro. I said, I'm just eating healthy. And he's like, well, eating healthy, it really isn't like a diet where you're like super strict on something. He's like, because there's some wiggle room for interpretation there. So I was like, oh crap, I guess I got to start over because I'm not following a diet. So I started over. And then the next time I started over was the first time that I was like, okay, this is integrity. Because I was doing a macro diet where you just track you have a certain amount of fat, carbs, and protein for the day. But in a general macro diet, if it fits your macros, you can have it. So at the end of one day, I had a little bit of carbs and fat left. So I had one of those strawberry shortcake ice cream bars because it could fit my macros. And as I was finishing that, I was listening to a podcast about the program, and the guy who created the program was talking about it. And he's like, so if you choose the macro diet, it's a clean macro diet. And I'm like, eating my ice cream cone.
He can see me.
Like, oh crap. Well, I'm doing it. And in my head, this is like the conversation. I was like, I'm doing a macro diet. I'm staying with my macros. I totally could just keep going. oh, it's fine. It's just like I'll start eating clean tomorrow. I'll go on to day 14. It'll be fine. And then like an hour went by and I was thinking about it still. And then like another hour went by and I'm like, ah, crap. Like it just kind of like hit me. I was like, I can't continue on knowing that I'm supposed to start over and be able to say that I completed it. And it's that integrity and that pride that you have of like, if you're going to complete something, and there's certain rules, why cut corners? Why do it the wrong way? So that just to like have the glory, because you really don't like, yeah, maybe I could have told everybody and had that, but I wouldn't have felt I was still, I would feel the internal struggle of, well, I didn't really do it, but I'm telling everybody I did.
So, have you ever before been that committed to something that was just about you?
Never,
Right.
never.
Because that's the really exciting piece for me, because I think as women, the more our lives grow into children and families and careers, repeatedly we put ourselves down on the bottom of the list. We take care of everybody and everything else, to the point of you're on your way to bed, and how many things do you do on your way to bed, right? You pick things up, put them back where they belong. You go into the, like, I go into the bathroom to wash my face. In that particular bathroom is where the washer and dryer is. And if I'm in there, it's like, oh, I forgot to move this load of laundry up into the dryer, and I do it then. Right. So it's like, you don't just get up and go to bed. Right. So I think that to me is the most exciting part of your commitment to the 75 days. And you started 3 times.
Yeah. So I
So
started
the
over
third time you completed it.
third time I completed it. So the first time I failed because I wasn't following a diet. The second time is because I wasn't following a clean macro diet. The third time I got all the way to day 73. And I was feeling like on top of the world because I literally had like 2 days left. And I had gone through, so beginning of September, we took a 2-week family vacation. We saw some family. We traveled. We brought the kids to Legoland. We did a whole thing. I stayed on my diet that whole time. I did my 2 workouts. So I was doing a morning workout around the resort, like in the morning before everybody woke up, before like even the lights were on. And I was doing a workout like before dinner up in the hotel room. I was literally, it was great. I enjoyed it, but I was sticking to everything. I did everything. I kept my diet when we were at the park. Like I got the salad, like I did what I needed to do. And then on our way back home, we stopped at a friend's house, and because my work, I'm completely remote, so I could still work with my reps and my team that I manage. I could work with my clients. I was on appointments. We were at a friend's house in South Carolina, and I did all my appointments, went downstairs. My husband was hanging out with the friends outside. I went out and I was hanging out in the driveway. They were all like, not partying, but they were just like hanging out, chilling, like by a little bonfire. And I was working out because I needed to get my second workout in. And I went upstairs. It was probably 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. And we went upstairs and my husband laid down, and I was like, okay, I got to take a shower. I got to finish my water and I'm good for the day. And I didn't even take a shower. I just laid down because I was talking to him for a couple minutes and
You fell asleep.
fell asleep. And I didn't finish my water. So I woke up at probably 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning to go to the bathroom. And I saw that my water bottle, this giant pink water bottle, still had water in it. And I probably woke up the whole house because I think I yelled a swear word really, really loudly. I don't remember because it was such a fog of anger.
Right? You had 2 days left.
I had 2 days left.
Oh my God.
And in my head, I'm like, no one will ever know. Like, this is like the initial thought was, no one will ever know. I could totally just dump the rest. It was probably like maybe 8, maybe 16 ounces left, not a ton. I could just dump it out. It'll be fine. It's totally cool. And then I laid back, I went to the bathroom, I came back, I drank it, and I laid back down. And or no, I dumped it out. I did dump it out because I was like, no one will ever know. I laid back down and I was just laying there for like 15 minutes. I couldn't fall back to sleep because I was just so mad. I ended up waking my husband up and he's like, do you know what time it is? And I was like, yeah. Do you know what I didn't do? And he was like, uh-oh. And I'm like, I didn't finish my water. And he was like, oh shit, I'm so sorry. And he was like, whisper. And I was like, yeah. So we're going to talk about this in the morning because I can't sleep right now. And I let him go back to sleep. And I woke up the next morning and yes, I was still like mad at myself. But at that point, I had to flip it because I was like, there's no way that I'm going to just keep going because I'm this close to the end that I would feel it in my gut forever if I said that I finished it and I actually didn't. So I was like, okay, I know that I have to start over. I need to find the silver linings in this. And that was our last day with our friends. And it was a Thursday. I was like, I'm going to start over on Sunday because the app that I have to track it starts on a Sunday. I was going to start over on Sunday. But silver linings is I got to have like a sushi smorgasbord and a glass of wine with our friends. The next day when we left, I got Chick-fil-A on the way home, which up here you can't get Chick-fil-A unless you're buying a
Going
plane
to the airport.
But it's on the other side of
Yes.
security. You
Right.
can't
You
even
have, right. You have to
have a plane ticket. Which I'm not flying anytime soon. No, thank you.
right.
So I was like, I'm not gonna have Chick-fil-A. So I got Chick-fil-A on the way home when we were driving. About 30 minutes after that, I felt like, okay, I don't need to ever do this again because I felt like hell. It was terrible. My body was just not used to it. When we came home, we unpacked, and then I started again on that Sunday and just kind of kept my head down and stuck with it. I built some new routines for myself, kind of assessing what was easy with the first time, like that 73 days that I did it, what time of day to work out. Like I analyzed for like those couple of days of like what works and what didn't work.
Oh, that's so interesting because you're a numbers person.
I am.
Right? So that totally translates it how you approached it.
Yep. And I just came up with a system that utilizing all the things that worked, like getting my first workout outside first thing in the morning, like within minutes, getting up, just building that habit. And there were days that I like would press snooze one time in my old self. I say it like my old self. I'd sleep until my snooze went off. But then like doing this, I'm like, if I snooze, I'm not going to be up before the kids. I'm not going to be done. And then I'm going to be so mad at myself later. Oh, okay. And I just got up and just did it. And it was interesting because doing those hard things and like having to do it because now I just needed to prove this to myself, actually built that discipline that even when I don't want to do something, now I do it because I know I said I'm going to do it and I need to follow through. If not for anybody else, but for myself, because that daily check mark of like being able to check that box off and saying that I did it and actually doing it was so satisfying. It gave me that sense of like that I don't know, I started trusting myself. Like I started actually
empowering. Was it empowering?
Yeah, trusting myself. But I felt accomplished. I felt like even if I didn't hit all the other things, like even if the dishes were overflowing in the sink and the laundry wasn't done, I did my list. So I know that I did something that was going to make tomorrow better than today. And it was kind of that accomplishment that kept me going. But I didn't really start to see those results because some of the days I'm like, oh, this workout isn't really working. Or how do I know, like, do I know that it's going to be like, I really wasn't doing it for the results. I was doing it for like, to be able to say that I did it. And so to kind of circle back to your question of like, when did I have that like aha moment was the day after I was done. So last Thursday, the 3rd was my day 75. I did it. I finished my water early. Like it was like one of the first things I did that day.
You drink a gallon at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
The water is not going to get me this time.
Yeah. And the funny thing is last week while we were leading up to it, so many things happened that could have completely derailed me. One of the days, something happened. I can't even remember now. Something happened with the kids where it was pushing me back with one of my workouts. Like, I think my daughter had an accident. She's 4. So I was cleaning up her in the morning, which delayed my workout. Like, it just kind of happened. And then on my last day, it's funny that we talked about that. I completely forgot until just now. Our water went out. And it was right around I finished my second workout, and I was about to refill my water because this is a half gallon, so I have to refill it one time. And it was like early in the afternoon, and the water in the entire neighborhood was out. And I was like, this will not happen to me today. I was like,
what is it with the water?
I was like, I will drive to like Price Chopper. I don't know. I will figure out a way to get the other half a gallon of water in today, if it doesn't matter if I'm not filling it up at home. And we went and visited a friend, and I brought my empty water bottle, and I was like, can you fill my water bottle for me, please? Because I am not going to fail today. By the time we got home, the water was back on in the house. I think they were fixing the pump house out in the neighborhood. But so I finished it. And then the next day I woke up and I'm like, I have all these things that I need to do, but I don't need to do them. It was like a sense of like, I want to do them because they made me feel good. And so that day, that Friday, I didn't work out because I was like, been doing 2 workouts a day for like 100 and some odd days now. I'm going to give myself a couple of days of rest, let my body like readjust. It was really a couple of days of reflection, but that day one of the things is you have to take a progress picture. So I did my very first picture to day 75 and put them side by side. And I was like mind blown of the body changes. And I was like, wow, I didn't really feel along the way. I wasn't seeing the results along the way. I wasn't like, I felt a lot different, but I wasn't seeing it. Excuse me. Nope. I'm sorry. You need to go ask Daddy. I love you. Okay. You need some dental floss. All right. Do not come in anymore, please. I love you. Close the door. Okay.
Bye-bye, Mom.
Bye-bye.
So you weren't doing it for the weight loss,
No.
right? And that stuff. So you weren't focused on that while you were doing it.
Right. Yeah. And that was, I mean, my clothes started fitting differently, and like that was a perk, but it wasn't what I was really focused on. Like for me, it was just doing the things, and the results are going to happen whether or not I want them to or not. But it was just doing those things and having the discipline to do it. And that's why it was so unique, because it's not a fitness challenge. It's not like a healthy challenge. It's a mental challenge. And that's why there's such rigidity to the list that you have to do the things on the list, as minuscule as they feel, you have to do them. And like one of the workouts having to be outside, or then 2 different workouts, 45 minutes each. It can't be like 1.5 hour workout at the same time. They have to be separate. It has to be inconvenient. It has to be something that you normally wouldn't do, because it builds that discipline to do it even when it's not convenient. But that day I didn't work out, and I went and got duck donuts because I was like, the duck donuts just opened. And my husband was working, and my mom dropped the kids off at my mom's house, and she's like, what do you want for dinner? I'm like, honestly, Kraft macaroni and cheese and a hot dog. So that's what she made for me. I felt like a little kid, and so I went to my mom's house and she made me dinner, and then I came home and I had some clients, and everything was fine. And then I woke up the next morning and I felt like crap. Like I literally,
describe how you felt in your body that morning when you woke up.
My whole body was it felt like 500 pounds. My muscles hurt because I didn't have a whole gallon of water that day. So I knew I was dehydrated from what I normally was. My body like craved movement because I hadn't worked out. So I was like, I have to do something. So I worked out. And it just changed my brain. Like I was in a fog when I woke up. I was really groggy. I didn't jump out of bed like I was before. It kind of took me a little while to get going. Like my whole body just felt terrible. And that was really that turning point. I'm like, I was living like this every single day before. And it didn't feel like that bad because I was used to it. It was just the way that it was. But having that like clarity and having that health and hydration and everything that I was doing, like going back to the way that it was, felt terrible.
Right. So you didn't, right? I tell people all the time, you don't know how bad you feel until you feel better. And because you like you did this over 75 days and you were so focused on the goal, right? You missed all the changes that happened along the way with how you felt and everything because you were just so focused on the goal.
Yeah.
Right. So that's pretty amazing. So have you built yourself a new routine then for going forward?
I have actually. A couple people have asked me that. So I realized through this that I like a daily task, a daily to-do list of things, because even if I don't feel like I made progress that day, if at least if I did those things, I know I did something. Because I'm not going to see the result. Like that was the thing that this taught me is you're not going to see the results overnight. It's not like going to the gym one day or prospecting for your business or networking or building a relationship or doing anything for 24 hours. You're not going to see the results that you want to. I mean, that would be great, but it's little things and doing the same, like those things every single day for an extended period of time that you see the compounding results.
Right, right. It builds the momentum, right? Things don't happen overnight. And I feel like so much of what we're taught leads us to believe that that's true. So we feel like failures really much sooner than we should, and we give up, right? Like I was explaining to a client a couple weeks ago, right? We're very linear people. Like we start here, we have our goal up here, and we see it as a like a straight line. Like I'm going to go from here to here, but life doesn't work that way. So it's like this is what the line is. So the blips above the line are the good things, right? The good accomplishments. The blips underneath are when we fall off or something trips us up and something misaligns. What do we focus on though on that journey? We focus on all these things down here that make us feel like crap. Like, look, I'm failing. And we ignore the highlights. We ignore the wins, which if we did not ignore the wins, we might keep going. And so we give up and we say we failed. No, actually, can we flip how we look at failure? Because we really aren't failing. Maybe you're figuring out what doesn't work for you. Right? Like, Rome wasn't built in a day is not so common a phrase because it's wrong.
That's totally it, because and it's not even so much focusing on the goal, because sometimes that goal is so ominous, whether it's a health goal or a financial goal. Like when I'm working with clients and they see that they need to have $1 million for their retirement, it's like it's an ominous goal in their head. They're like, how will I ever get to $1 million?
Right.
And we break it down to what do I need to do every day, every month from now until then to get there. And if you keep doing the same things every day, we know that the results are going to come. It's just a matter of building that daily discipline. It's a matter of doing the things that we know we're supposed to do, even when they're inconvenient, even when they're hard, even when we don't want to, because ultimately it's going to give us the results that we want, but we can't see the results as we're doing it. Like I didn't see fitting back into like pre-JJ pants or like all the things that have changed. I didn't see that when I was bundling up at 6:00 in the morning, going for a walk in a snowstorm. I didn't see those little things changing, but having that daily checklist of the tasks was so crucial for me, because I was able to check those things off. And even when I'm not seeing the results, I know now, as long as I continue to do the things that I know I'm supposed to do, or that will bring me to my goal, because you're not supposed to do anything. It's the things that you should do to help you get to your goal. As long as I do those things that I know are going to give me my results, even if I don't see the results, I know they're coming. And maybe for me before, I didn't have a huge belief in that. The belief wasn't there because I always worried, like, well, what if I do this and it doesn't work? Or what if I work on these areas of my life, whether it's my relationship or my health? Like, what if I do all the things I know I'm supposed to do and then it doesn't work, or I don't get the results that I want? So I didn't do them because I was afraid. I didn't believe that the results were going to happen. But doing this program helped me realize, like, if I do the things that I know I'm supposed to do, and I just continually do them, eventually, I mean, it's the law of nature, like cause and effect. If you do something for a long period of time, it's going to happen. It's just a matter of the timeline that it takes. Like, Rome wasn't built in a day. You got to just keep building. You got to
So
keep doing the
let's
thing.
recapture, like, relationships, right? Like, when a relationship isn't working, it's usually a result of all the things we stopped doing that we did at the beginning of the relationship, right? That, the compliments, the acknowledging what the other person's doing, right? And all those things, when you stop doing it, even the other person doesn't realize what they're lacking, right? What isn't working anymore, but it's those things that we haven't done.
Right.
So it is as simple as checking off the checklist and remembering in all the things, raising kids, right? It still translates. If I'm not consistent with the boundaries, then they are not going to consistently behave the way I would like them to behave if I don't give them the boundaries to work within, right? So how has it changed those other things in your life?
That's really what I've been doing a lot of reflection on this week is, what do I need to do every day to continue? Because, like, yeah, my health is there, and I feel great and my clothes fit, and I see those results. But now I really want to start seeing those same kind of results in the other areas of my life. And one of the things in the program is reading 10 pages of a nonfiction personal development and professional development book every day. Not 9 pages, 10 pages. And if you only read 9, you have to start over. So through that, I've read probably 15 books now, because I've 75 days, but I actually have been doing it for 167 because I had to start over a couple of times. Yes, it took me 167 to complete a 75-day program.
For those of us who haven't started, that's still pretty good.
Yeah, like half this year. So one of the books I read was about this author talked about the core four. I don't have the book. I let a friend borrow it. But it's called the core four. And basically, if you focus on the 4 areas of your life, and he called them power, passion, purpose, and production. So the 4 P's, the core 4. And power is your body, like exercising and fueling your body the right way. Passion is all of your relationships. So your romantic relationship, your relationship with your family, your kid, whoever that is in your life, your relationships. Purpose is your mind, like learning something or expanding to do something for that every day. And production is, what are you going to do to better your career or your business every day? So incorporating that idea with my daily checklist, I just went online and I found a free iPhone app of, like, I Googled like daily checklist. I don't even know what it's called. Daily checklist, where I could create my daily checklist of things that I wanted to do. And as I do them throughout the day, I check them off. And then tomorrow, when I open it up, there's a whole new list of the same things. And so I started using that same concept for each of those areas. So I'm working out every day. I'm drinking a gallon of water a day. Like working on my relationship with my husband, my kids, doing that every day. Um, I'm still reading 10 pages every morning because now what gets me out of bed is not my snowy workouts. It's drinking my delicious cup of coffee and reading my book. So reading 10 pages every day and doing certain tasks for my business every day, whether it's for my team or for my clients, just to make sure that I'm doing those things every single day, no matter what.
Is it fair to say that you're approaching all the things in a much more conscious way,
Yes.
right? Like 100%?
Yeah, 150%, if that's even possible. Because just today was a great example of that. I hit So I have a certain weekly goal of things that I need to do for the entire week for my business to grow and different things. And the number one thing is making phone calls and actually just following up with referrals and making phone calls. And with kids interrupting, working from home, like working around homeschooling and the different things that are going on in our life, in the past, it was hard for me to find the time just to sit down and make the phone calls and actually have uninterrupted time because I didn't want my kids walking in the middle of a meeting or on the phone, like screaming in the background while I'm talking to a potential client. So I wouldn't make the phone calls, and therefore I wasn't seeing the results. I wasn't seeing the different things. But now, just today, actually last night, I hit my weekly goal for this specific task of making phone calls. But I have my daily checklist and the week is only half over. So today's Thursday and I have almost about 150% at my goal. So if I know that if I continue, because I have my daily checklist, that throughout the week, I'm probably going to double, if not triple my goal just because I'm doing the same thing every single day.
So then it's right. So I want to capture the really important piece. Even though you met your goal, you're still doing your checklist, right? Where most of us would go, oh, wow, done with that for the week.
Yep.
I don't have to make phone calls for the rest of the week. Yeah, no, it's human nature.
Yeah. That was the biggest nature. I would hit my goal and I'd be like, okay, done. Awesome. But I wasn't seeing that growth or that momentum building because I wasn't putting in massive effort. I wasn't actually taking those next steps, what I needed to do. And now by doing this, I can get done so much more in a period of time. But it's not so much like earlier today, like I didn't have to make phone calls today because I already hit my week goal. And I'm like in my old self and I've been like, oh, I'll just do it tomorrow. But I saw that little number on my phone that I need to check off this box of making my 20 calls for today. So I actually made 21 calls because somebody called me back and then it was a whole thing. So I actually did more than I needed to, but now I'm that much further ahead, which is just going to compound the results even more, that I'm going to see more growth. I'm going to see more production. I'm going to see better things in all the areas, because if I just continue to do it, it's going to compound to where eventually, hopefully, the goal is to not have to do as much. It will just start to do it itself. I'll kind of have that momentum moving forward.
Right. Yeah. And it makes sense. And we understand it when somebody else is describing it to us and we go, oh God, that person's doing it and that's a goal, but we never follow through with it. Right. We think like, we get stuck in this position of magical thinking, like, oh, I get it, right? I understand the concept, but if you don't actually do the work, understanding the concept is not enough.
Right.
And it sounds kind of silly to say these things out loud, but we're having this conversation because until you actually completed the fourth time around the 75 days, you didn't even get the message. And for me, Steph that I knew prior to doing these challenges was a pretty driven person. Yeah, that's how I thought of you. That's how I would have described you to people. Like, yeah, she's a driven person. Like the way you were running your business prior to this, was impressive. So I think that is the whole reason I wanted to have this conversation so badly with you, is because it's just math, people. It is
It's just that.
math,
It's math.
right? You really have to actually walk through all the things and do them every single day if
Right.
you're really going to attain what you want. It's not the world getting in our way. It's not the universe stopping us from having it. It's not that we're undeserving.
Mhm.
It's that we aren't doing the work to make it happen.
That's 100, because so many people said that to me before, but I didn't actually understand. I'm like, no, I'm doing enough. And that, but to me, the results are amazing. Like that I'm feeling those compounding results. Like from doing the 75 days of working on me, awesome. Love that. I love how I feel. And I'm confident in that. But all of the other things that it taught me was that just because the results are there, because I know a lot of very successful people who just aren't happy.
Right.
I know a lot
Yep.
of people
That's where I was going next.
they don't have the happiness. But and I appreciate the compliments that you gave me and what you said about prior to doing all this and when we first met a few years ago, because yes, that's I was working hard and portraying, but that internal struggle that I felt was actually more consuming than the results that I was already seeing in my business or even in my personal life,
Right.
because
Because,
there was just something wrong. Like
right.
I didn't really put my finger on it. I said to myself, I'm like, I don't really have a passion. Like I don't know. There's something, like I had all the things and I should be grateful because we're told like, oh, be grateful for what you have and be content. But then it almost compounds that you feel more guilty because you're not grateful.
Right.
You
What's
did
wrong
something
with me? I'm
wrong.
broken. I'm
Right.
broken. So I want to capture that again because I think, again, it's super important that just because we've reached our goals, like the happiness piece, really the happiness piece, like you didn't set out, the 75-day challenge wasn't about your job, wasn't about, your work production, um, but how wonderfully it made a difference, and how it is really changing the trajectory of every part of your life.
Yeah.
So would you, because what I heard, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, you were more exhausted at the end of the day prior to this than you are now going forward with your checklists of all your things.
Yeah. I mean, physically, I'm tired because right now I'm
Right.
getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning. So I have an earlier bedtime and I haven't gone to bed at 9 o'clock in like years, mainly because of kids and life. And that was my whole thing. But now, like, I gladly go to bed at the end of the day. But like, there are times that I'm like, I know I'm physically exhausted, but like, I feel great. Like, I feel like I accomplished my day and I feel like even if I don't see the results, I'm like, okay, I know I did what I need to do today. Now let me focus on these other areas that maybe I need to do the dishes or the laundry. Like, but I did those things without worrying, like, did I do the other things I needed to do? That the weight of those tasks weren't so daunting because I knew if I did these things that I was doing my job. I was doing not just my job, but like my job as a mom, my job as a wife, my job for myself and my brain, my job for my job. And if I do these things, I'm not going to feel guilty when I want to go to bed early. I'm not going to feel guilty when I want to spend the time with the kids and not be making phone calls, like the different things. Because I always felt this struggle of when I was with the kids, I know I should be working right now. When I'm with my husband, I should be with the kids. When I'm with my whole family, I should be like, there was this hole and I wasn't content. Was never like present in the moment. But now, like even on this conversation, like I can put my phone down and know, okay, I did my job for today. I know that I have this task. I can be present in our conversation. I can enjoy the time with my kids playing picture charades. I can sit down and have a conversation with my husband, not worrying about like answering my emails or dealing with it. Like can
Because you've
actually,
done the work.
because I've done
Right.
the work and I'm not worried
You're
about,
not chasing it.
right. Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're trusting, I feel like, you become very trustful of the process,
Yes. Yeah. And
all those processes. You have the checklist. I'm doing the work.
yeah, you
It will
saying it, yeah,
happen.
right. You saying it like that was the first time that somebody really said it like that, like trusting the process without seeing the results yet. Because usually we say like, believing is seeing. Like, oh, I'll believe it when I see it. Like that's the phrase, right?
Right.
But you have to believe before you see it, because if you don't believe, you're not going to do all the
Yeah.
things that you need to do to be able to actually see it.
Right.
And that's what this really taught me, is trust the process. If you have a coach or a mentor, or in this thing, in doing the 75 days, like I had the person who created, I listened to his podcast every now and then, but it was about other topics. It wasn't about this process. Like this was, I truly had to rely on myself because nobody else around me at the time was doing it. I was really, I knew one person that completed it way before me, but they didn't even tell me they did it. They did it incognito.
I really feel like for it to be impactful, that's the way it should be done. It shouldn't be
Yeah.
done in a group, right? Because then you're relying on the group dynamics. You have a more responsibility to show up for the other people than you do for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
And even people are like, well, why isn't your husband doing it with you? Like he does it, he's choosing not to do it right now. Like I know eventually he'll do it when he's ready and when he wants to do it. But you have to like want to do it. It has to be something that you want to do, because it's not just something that you can go through the motions with. And having that for me, and having to rely on myself as my own like mentor, or my own like get out of bed, or my own like really built my ability to trust myself that I can execute, I can do the things I need to do. And it built my belief in myself, which then allowed me to do those things, which then gave me the hit the goals and gave me the results that I wanted to see, even when I didn't see the results like right away. And it believing before taking action actually made the actions happen so that the results came.
What is the name of the man who does this program?
His name is Andy Frisella, Frisella. And
Is it called the 75-day challenge?
It's called 75 Hard.
75 Hard.
And my one disclaimer is that if you don't like foul language,
that's not me.
That's not you, but it might be some people.
Yeah.
I always tell people, because in what I've done with my personal development, I'm reading a ton of different authors with different personalities, different things. I never just gravitate towards the people that I agree with 100%. Like I've learned so many things from so many different people, even if I don't agree with them. But Annie's definitely not everybody's cup of tea. Very no BS, no excuse, very intense personality, very intense feelings and opinions. And some agree with it and some I don't. And I think everybody kind of has that with a lot of people. But if you cut back all of those personal things, the program itself is really that focus. And I just look at him as like the person who created it. He's a very successful business person, built multiple multi-million-dollar companies. He tells a story, if you listen to one of his early podcasts, about how he started his business. Him and his buddy painted lines on a parking lot one summer as a job, and they earned $12,000, and that's how they started the business. And now they're both multimillionaires doing amazing things in the community and in their businesses. But just that going to him for those tasks, those results, is what I did. So my one disclaimer: he's not for everybody, and he even says it. He's like, I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but my people gravitate toward me, and
exactly.
You can take it or leave it. But it's really straightforward. No BS, no excuses, no like. You try.
Yeah. No coddling. No, these are the rules. You either did it or you didn't. You're either
he's not the person, if I knew him in real life, he's not the person I would go to for a pat on the back. Let's just put it that way. Yeah, it's but that's the thing, like across all of the authors, all of the podcasts that I've listened to, the books that I've read, the people that I seek out now, I never agree with all of them. Like, because right now there's a huge pull of polarization of like right or wrong, good or bad, this or that, him or whatever, like all the, and across all the different areas. But that for me, like I just take the good and I leave the bad, and I can learn something from everybody, no matter
You can even learn from the bad.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing. You can learn from the bad, whether it's I don't want to be that way, or
Correct.
I agree that way, or I agree with what you said, but I don't like how you said it. Like, you know what I mean? That doesn't really matter at the end of the day.
Right.
The facts are the facts are the facts. And for me, in this instance, like the results are the results. So.
Right. So I don't want to go much further. I try to keep these to about an hour because everybody's got things to do. But is there anything else that you feel is important to say in summary or whatever? Or if somebody's thinking about doing this?
Yeah, if somebody is thinking about starting to work on themselves, number one, don't feel guilty, because there were going to be people all along the way who are going to say things like, this wasn't obviously a personal cakewalk because I had to start over, but all along the way I had people telling me things like, in every part of my life, they were giving me unsolicited parenting advice, they were giving me unsolicited relationship advice, and then doing this program, people would say to me like, do you really need to read every day, or do you really need to weigh your food, or do you really need, like, this is a little too intense. People always had things to say, but it's not focusing on what everybody else is saying. It's really just focusing on what the results are and what you can actually get out of it, versus taking it back to the basics. It's really just focusing on that and not worrying about what other people are going to think. So yeah, it's interesting because all along the way, everybody's going to have a different journey. But if you focus on forward, then you can definitely kind of tune out the rest of it. And just
right, because at the end of the day, those people are not living your life. Right. Yeah. And I feel like people have a tendency to do that, because then it's really not about you.
Absolutely.
Right. What they're doing is they're rationalizing things for themselves and for the reasons why they're not going to do this and why they're not going to change things.
100%. Yeah.
Right.
Really.
So
yeah,
really, your entire story tonight is the only thing standing in our way is ourselves.
100%. Yep.
Yeah. What is that t-shirt? Darling, you can do hard things. Dear girl, you are capable of doing the hard things. I feel like that t-shirt now,
yeah.
I fully understand it after this conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I am always telling people, be your own superhero, be your own hero. Don't wait for somebody to come save you. And I think this all backs that right the fuck up completely.
Totally. 100.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm inspired. I hope we've inspired other people to look at things a little deeper in their lives. Oh, one last thing. So you're still drinking a gallon of water a day, right? I do too, right? No matter what else I am doing or not doing correctly in my life, I'm always about the water, right? Because at least I'm taking care of every cell in my body that way. People always have such a hard time with that, and they imagine that we are on the toilet the majority of the day. Do you get up 12 times a night to pee?
At first, and it's going to be that immediate. At first, you're going to be like, your body's got to regulate it. It's got to learn how to process that. But after like the first week or two, it really regulates. Like I don't go to the bathroom any more frequently than I used to. And my body like actually internalizes that water better now.
Right. And thank you. And I had to ask the question because that's what I tell people, but they think I'm like making it up. So now I'm not the only one. Those who have heard this story from me, I now have backup.
Totally, 100%,
Because that's
100%.
what I tell people. No, your body will start to regulate around that. And they're like, yeah, no. Like, okay.
It really does happen. Over time, it really does happen.
Thank you so much for being open to have this conversation. Thank you for being open enough to, I feel like you opened a lot of your life up to us tonight. Thank
I
you for
appreciate
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's how we learn, right? Witnessing what other people have done. It's the only way we really get it. So thank you for that, Steph. Thank you for
Absolutely.
the time out of your day, putting us on the list. Thank you. Thank you
I
for
appreciate that. No, yeah. Now it's back to regular life, bedtimes. As you can tell, it's going very well. My daughter.
Oh, I remember those days.
That's absolutely a time.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'll tell you what, you're gonna miss it one day.
They tell me that. They tell me
No,
that.
really, you really will. Not right away, but you will. 59-year-old me is telling you it'll happen. Thank you so much. Have a really great rest of your day. And I will be in touch.
Thank you so much.
Have a really good
All right.
night.
You too. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye, Dawn.
Bye.